Yudabang, is that when we blame? We want to find a cause, so we point at something as the cause. It seems like a self-protective measure somewhat. Bowing.
Ken Zumba, I was drawn to that sentence as well for a different reason. I just wondered what is the mechanism or something by which the mind is overwhelmed by something? Like if you think of a very loud sound in a room could overwhelm the room by virtue of the air pressure or whatever the sound waves are coming. But what is the turning point for whelmed and then overwhelmed? Bowing.
Yes, I'm bowing. I'm thinking about how, so neuroscientists believe that emotions are chemical. So it reminds me of, you can have one glass of wine and it probably wouldn't overpower your mind, but if you had four, it would. So maybe it has something to do with the power of the emotion. If the emotions are really intense, they probably release more of whatever neurochemical is associated with that emotion. Bowing.
Kodavai, but you have to temper that with the fact that our reactions to emotions change over time. The things that used to overwhelm us as a child don't overwhelm us anymore. Bowing.
Kodo used the word, we are trying to do something. And in the light of what Isan just said, and I agree with it, that emotions can be extremely powerful. And I think that sometimes I cannot even try to do anything because this is doing me before any kind of trying or thinking is engaged. I just can feel how that emotion determines my reaction. I think trying will be responding maybe more, but how many times I'm thinking about myself, I'm reacting to something which is happening instead of responding. Bowing.
Yudabang, so what is happening in that, like Kodo was saying, over time they change, so we don't react in the same way. Are we, is the chemical reaction changing, or is there some kind of control happening there? Bowing.
Ken Zumbai, I'm still curious about how that looks to be overwhelmed. What is overwhelmed? What is doing the overwhelming? Like with 4 glasses of wine, we're still aware, we still have cognition. We may have less body control, but what is being overwhelmed exactly? What's our standard for not being overwhelmed? Bowing.
Elena bowing. My understanding of being overwhelmed is a sense of lack of control.
Yudabang, Elena, I think you've lost control of your.
Like when things are so intense that you. Oh no.
Somewhere after you said control and then things are so intense, we missed a chunk there. Do you want to try to repeat?
Oh, sure. Elena bowing. Sorry, I don't know what's up with my connection. But I feel like someone once told me that when the point of overwhelm is when you lose control of your responses and your reactions. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but I feel like that's what I was told. So that might be like a beginning point of conversation there. And I was also really curious because I've done a lot of personal work to have in what they're defining as a positive response or a neutral response, but he's not really saying that anyone is better than any other one. He's just sort of acknowledging that these are the three ways that that it can show up. Am I understanding that correctly, Elena Bowing?
Konoba, he does use the word skillful and unskillful actions, which applies a certain value to them. Bowing.
Mazuku bowing. Yeah, I was curious about the word skillful and unskillful and wondering if is skillful action related in any way to skillful means. Seems like it's talking maybe not necessarily about skillful means, but maybe bowing.
Kenzan, my understanding of that is that skillful is anything that leads toward awakening or enlightenment, broadly speaking. And skillful means sounds like a more specific application to me of that idea. Like using one of the four karmas as a skillful means to do something. Bowing.
Mazuku bowing. Yeah, but when it says skillful actions lead to pleasurable feelings, at least my experience is the path to enlightenment doesn't necessarily lead to pleasurable feelings. So yes, it's not necessarily the same thing. Yeah, I was curious about that too, but I think my understanding is similar to yours, Kenzan bowing.
Yeah, bowing is skillful, skillful actions. Can they be like spontaneous actions? It sounds sort of planned out, or like it has an intention behind it. Bowing.
Isan bowing, I'm thinking back, I'm still stuck on that question. What does it mean to be overwhelmed? I think that's a really interesting question. And so I think in thinking of those three bullet points, if those are the specific afflictive processes that he's referring to in the sentence couple sentences before. And I think if I'm not overwhelmed by an emotion, I would have a much better chance of responding with skillful action. And if I'm pretty seriously overwhelmed, I would probably lash out and consider that unskillful. And if I'm totally, for me anyway, if I'm totally overwhelmed, I will just shut down, which I suppose is sort of a neutral action for the person. So that's another question. Is this referring to the person on the other end of my action? Or is it referring to this person? Bowing.
Jishin bowing. Isan, thank you first of all for bringing us back, because I also liked very much the question which Yuda asked and it kind of disappeared in the follow-up discussion. But I really think it's a very important area to go deeper. So thank you for bringing us back. When you are talking about like two persons, can you please clarify? Does it refer to that person or this person? I'm not